Welcome back to another installment of Redesigned, the podcast where we talk about all things technology, digital culture, the past, present, and future of technology, and where it's all leading us. It's your boy, the content producer, and this week we got a nostalgic show for you this week. We're going to be talking about the soul of 80s music. What made the 80s sound? What made it special? Why do so many people keep referring to music in the 80s as a benchmark for musical excellence? We're going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, we've got some tech news as usual. And also the new segment, Scrolling Deep, where we're going to be going to the deepest, darkest, well, we're not going to go too dark, but we're going to go down the rabbit hole when it comes to the crazy stuff that you see online, the funny videos, the interesting videos, the ones that make you think. All of that coming up after the intro.
Artificial intelligence, Web 3.0, consumer electronics, social media, the metaverse, biotechnology, autonomous vehicles, the Internet of Things, virtual reality, augmented reality, CRISPR, space travel, digital media, next generation gaming, e-commerce, robotics, climate change, carbon neutral, engineering, wearable technology, digital health. Redesigned.
Welcome back. Don't forget, if you want to get involved in the conversation, you can leave a comment in the comment section. As always, I don't know about you, but do you not think sometimes the comment section can sometimes be more interesting than the actual conversation of the actual content? Because the content is what sparks the conversation, and then what people are actually saying in the comment section is gold. Like sometimes I'll see a post on TikTok or Instagram, and yeah, it's funny, but what's even funnier is the comment section. Trust me, it really goes down in the comment section sometimes, you know. But anyway, moving on swiftly, let's get into this week's episode. Let's get cracking.
Redesigned.
All right, let's kick things off with some more news on Instagram. They've been making a lot of noise. You might have noticed by now, but Instagram is doubling down even more into Reels. They've extended the maximum length of an Instagram Reel to 3 minutes. Triple the time that you had before. So, isn't this a coincidence? Is it just about giving creators more freedom to tell their story? I don't know. What do you think? But I think it's a bit of both, but it's more of a strategic move. So with TikTok facing a potential permanent ban in the US, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what's going on with TikTok, because 1 minute is banned, the next minute it's not. I don't know what the end game is, but yeah, TikTok is, I think Instagram, I think Meta are envious of TikTok. They wish they had, when someone else gets an idea and you think, damn, I wish I thought of that. That's the situation with TikTok and Instagram. Or should I say, that's the situation that Mark Zuckerberg is facing right now. Instagram has had a bit of an identity crisis since TikTok came about. And I personally think they're doing everything in their power to dethrone TikTok as the number one app, not just for short form content, but also mid-length content too. And they've also, if you've noticed, they've also changed their profile grids to be more rectangular. So it's kind of mimicking TikTok's aesthetic. Subtle, right? But here's what's also interesting. They're testing 10-minute reels in some cases. It's not rolled out to everyone, but I'm hearing rumors that they're testing out 10-minute reels. If that happens, Instagram could go from a short form based content app to a serious YouTube or TikTok competitor. But the problem with Instagram is the algorithm is trash. The algorithm is actually trash. But let's see what they do with it anyway. Well, it is fascinating to see how all these platforms are evolving and some of them just stealing ideas from one another. It makes you wonder what's next for short form content and social media in general. Next up, let's talk about something that got people buzzing online recently. Chrissy Teigen's suggestion for a social media curfew. Now, this came up during TikTok's brief shutdown in the US. While most of you were panicking about where to get dopamine hits, Chrissy was out there saying, you know what, maybe we don't need social media after 6 p.m. Maybe we don't need it. She even joked about turning the apps off entirely from 6 at night to 6 in the morning. It's funny, but it's also kind of thought-provoking at the same time. She was kind of reminiscing about life before we were glued to our phones, and honestly, I get it. You know, social media has become such a massive part of our lives, but at what cost? Imagine if you couldn't scroll endlessly before bed. What would you do? Read a book, go for a walk, talk to someone on the phone, watch a film, listen to some music, I don't know, like an actual CD. But yeah, crazy ideas, I know, very old fashioned. But hey, with all these outages happening, maybe it's going to be more often. You know, it might actually set the pace, set the precedence for more things of a similar nature. Maybe we're getting a preview of what life could look like with a little less screen time. Food for thought. And finally, let's talk about a shift that's been a long time coming. Online platforms have officially overtaken TV as the most popular source of news in the UK. Yep, according to a recent report from Ofcom, platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram are now where most people are getting their updates. And we're talking about news updates as well. Now, this kind of makes sense, right? People want their news fast, bite-sized. Let's be real, they want a bit of shock value for entertainment as well. But here's the tricky part. When your news comes from social media, when you allow the majority of your news to come from social media, you're dealing with algorithms that prioritize clicks and engagement. So not necessarily accuracy. So there's a big difference, you know, from the days of sitting down to watch the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news on TV. Not to say that the mainstream news doesn't have their agendas. If you know, you know. But it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, social platforms give everyone a voice and make news more accessible. But on the other hand, there's a problem with misinformation. It spreads faster than ever. And sometimes, you know what they say, sometimes the lie is more entertaining than the actual truth. You know, so how do we balance that convenience with credibility? Something to keep in mind the next time you're scrolling through your feed and you're looking at news reports, you know, something to think about. So that's it for today's news segment. Remember, the tech and social media world is always changing, and I'm going to be here to help you keep up with the latest developments. So make sure you check in, and every now and again, if there is something really, really massive, if a news story breaks, you're going to get a breaking news podcast update on your feed. So watch out for that.
Redesigned.
The Sony Walkman has forever changed the way the world listens to music, civilized or otherwise. The Sony Walkman. The world hasn't been the same since.
Redesigned.
Okay, it's that time again. We are scrolling deep.
These are chips. These are crisps.
Hold on, wait. Let me run that again.
These are biscuits.
Let me run that again.
Yeah, I think they're all gone. Okay, so we can finally now agree that these are chips, these are crisps, this is a bin, these are the toilets, these are biscuits, these are trousers, and these are nappies. See you guys.
Damn, that always makes me laugh. Shout out to all my American friends out there. That always makes me laugh. The differences in what we call things. Hilarious. This is Intelligence Go, this account. So it looks like he says ChatGPT. He's using ChatGPT to control, it looks like some sort of autonomous weapon, and he's shooting balloons with it. I don't know what that thing is firing, but this looks mad. I wouldn't trust it. I hope that thing can't turn all the way around, you know. You think I'm standing in front of that? Listen. Hey, listen. So for those of you who are listening on the audio only, like, you need to go and watch the video on YouTube or Spotify video if you want to get the full context of what's going on there. Yeah, this is actually insane. Yeah, I won't trust it. I mean, I don't want to get shot in my leg. Damn, what for a science experiment? No way. Learning lyrics in the 80s. See, I would play the sound, but I can't play the sound because of copyright. But for context, what is she playing? She is playing, there you go, little snippet there. Hey, this was blatantly me, you know. This was me. I used to get the notepad, I used to write that shit down and try and memorize it. Don't judge me, but I actually remember 2 songs I did that with. One was Informer by Snow, and the other one was You Can't Touch This by MC Hammer. The rest of them, like, when it comes to like 90s rap, they were a bit too complicated to write down. Because rap songs were a lot more simple back in the day. Before the mid-90s. I wasn't always familiar with all of the lingo as well. So I wouldn't even know what the hell I was writing down anyway. But yeah, some of the more catchy songs, I'll try and learn the lyrics to them. I'll try and write them down. Yeah, sad, I know. But yeah. Life as a millennial.
Come on, go. What? Oh, come on! I'm trying to win, stop!
What are you doing with them fingers?
That's enough internet for me today, man.
This is the Redesigned Podcast.
Redesigned.
In today's main feature, we're rewinding back to the 80s and early 90s, a golden era of musical innovation shaped by technology.
You are sculpting. You're sculpting. Just like in a synthesizer, they're taking a pure electric signal and sculpting it into something of beauty.
While the music industry was mostly recording with traditional music instruments like brass, guitars, strings, and drums, the 80s was a decade where the industry embraced a new generation of musical instruments, the synthesizer and the drum machine. So, what is a synthesizer? A synthesizer is an electronic instrument, sometimes mistaken for an ordinary electronic keyboard or piano, but it generates sound by creating and manipulating waveforms. They're different to traditional instruments which produce sound through physical means like strings or air, but synthesizers use oscillators, filters, and modulators to shape sounds. They can either mimic real instruments or they can create entirely new tones, making them extremely versatile. Synthesizers are used for melodies, bass lines, pads, and effects, and their purpose is to expand the sonic palette available to musicians. And the drum machine? A drum machine is a device which is designed to create and arrange drum and percussion sounds. Drum machines are an alternative to human drummers, providing a steady beat for songs. Their main advantage is that they're programmable. So they can handle everything from a simple beat pattern to an incredibly intricate and complex pattern without making any mistakes. So imagine something as complicated as, something like Michael Jackson's Thriller. Imagine playing that with drums only. How many takes would they need to get that rhythm 100% correct? It's not possible. That's why they've got drum machines. And a lot of the time, they layer the drum machines with actual drums. So you get this incredible fusion of like technology and traditional mixed into one, and it just creates something completely sonically different that people had never heard before until the 80s, early 80s and the 90s, where they had some of these new drum machines and synthesizers, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. Another example is the drum pattern for Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing, which was programmed on the iconic Roland 808 drum machine in 1982. They are especially useful in genres like funk, hip-hop, electronic and pop, where precise, consistent rhythms are key. Let's look at some of the most iconic electronic instruments that changed the sound of music forever. First up is one of my favorites, the LinnDrum. In 1982, the LinnDrum hit the scene and suddenly music had a punchier, more precise beat. Artists like Prince and Michael Jackson embraced its versatility. Tracks like When Doves Cry and Wanna Be Starting Something wouldn't sound the same without it. Its ability to layer samples changed music forever. I've put together a playlist on Spotify if you want to hear more examples of music made with the LinnDrum. Moving on to the Yamaha CS-80. Very few sounds, capture the haunting beauty of the 80s better than the Yamaha CS-80. It was a beast of a synth, massive. Apparently it weighs about 100 kg. Yeah, for context, this synth is massive. And it was known for its expressive polyphonic capabilities. And when I say polyphonic, that basically means it's capable of producing more than one note at a time or more than one voice at a time. So you can have multiple layers of voices all coming out at the same time. So there was an artist called Vangelis, and he harnessed it to create the timeless, the absolutely iconic and timeless Blade Runner soundtrack.
They were designed to copy human beings in every way.
How can it not know what it is?
Commerce is our goal here at Tyrell. More human than human is our motto.
If you don't know, just Google it. Just go on YouTube and look at Blade Runner soundtrack, or go on Spotify, or check out the film on Amazon Prime. Soundtrack was amazing. Like the soundscapes on there, so atmospheric. But yeah, I'm just geeking out. But yeah, I'm just getting a bit carried away. But yeah, the Blade Runner soundtrack, so blending human emotion with synthetic perfection. In my opinion, the CS-80 is pure magic. One of my favorites is on the brass section on Michael Jackson's Human Nature. One of the most famous riffs out there when it comes to the CS-80. Now the Yamaha DX7, this one's massive as well. The Yamaha DX7 deserves its own pedestal. Released in 1983, it brought FM synthesis to the masses. So from the iconic tiny electric piano sound that you hear on Whitney Houston's Saving All My Love For You, to the brassy stabs of countless other pop songs like a-ha's Take On Me and Berlin's Take My Breath Away. The DX7 was everywhere. It was affordable, versatile, and it shaped the decade's soundscape. So many hit songs were made on that.
Redesigned.
Moving on to the Fairlight CMI, the world's first digital sampling synthesizer. Kate Bush was one of the first people to really utilize the sounds from this synth. Also Peter Gabriel. But yeah, Kate Bush, she used it like it was a paintbrush. So it created so many different unique sonic textures on tracks like Running Up That Hill. You've probably heard that on the Stranger Things soundtrack. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't just an instrument, it was a tool for storytelling. So I actually have a simulated version of some of these synths, and this one was one of my favorite ones to play with, the Fairlight CMI, just because it had such a diverse bank of sounds and voices. And when you use them, they really do bring out the whole essence of 80s music. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites. So the Fairlight wasn't just an instrument, it was a tool for storytelling, a gateway to a new universe of sound. When you talk about the sound of the 80s, you can't forget synths from Overhaul, Minimoog, and Roland. Let's not forget the Overhaul OBXA, with its warm analog tones used by Van Halen in Jump, or the Minimoog, which became a staple for bass lines and leads, especially funk, soul, and R&B songs. Korg and Roland also pushed the boundaries with the Roland Jupiter 8 and the TR-808, which I mentioned before. Those two machines were literally the cornerstones of pop, R&B, and hip-hop. The 808 in particular became immortal as its deep kick drum and crisp hi-hats eventually used in music like trap and house music.
Redesigned.
Now, the era's sound wasn't just about the instruments, it was about the technology enabling them. Microprocessors allowed synths to be programmable, while MIDI, introduced in 1983, changed how instruments communicated. For the first time ever, musicians could link synthesizers, drum machines, and sequencers, creating layered, complex arrangements with ease. It was definitely a turning point that made it more accessible to produce music. Another one of my favorites is the Synclavier, combined synthesis, sampling, and sequencing in one system. This was for rich artists only. Yeah, the price was eye-watering. You had artists like Herbie Hancock. They used it to push creative boundaries with songs like Rocket. Its robotic funk was a glimpse into the future.
You can either write it on the screen or you can play it on the keyboard.
Oh, okay.
See, if you're writing on the screen...
How does the music of the 80s and early 90s compare to today? Back then, technology was the limitation, but that limitation bred creativity. Musicians actually had to work within the constraints of their tools, often resulting in distinctive sounds. And it's funny because Timbaland actually said that in an interview not too long ago. They asked him about how did you find your sound? And he was talking about the instruments and the devices they used to use back in the day, actual hardware machines, not just, downloading plugins on onto your computer off the internet, you know, like you actually had to go and buy the machine and learn the different sounds, and you were limited in terms of choice. So you had to like work with what you had. Because you've got such a limited amount of sounds, you could only pick maybe 4 or 5 that would be unique to you. Whereas with these days, when you're looking at, you know, things like Logic, Cubase, native instruments and stuff like that, it's great, definitely great. That's something what I use to make my music on as well. But you have so much choice. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of different sounds. So to create your own sound, you know, it'd be pretty difficult. You know, it's not as easy as it was back in the day. So today, as I mentioned before, we've got limitless possibilities. Virtual instruments, like I mentioned before, I've tried the virtual instruments for all of these synths. Yeah, V Collection. Yeah, V Collection by Arturia. Yeah, if you want all the 80s type sounds, you can just go down the rabbit hole with that and just explore. Like, it's proper sick. But yeah, that's for all the heads that enjoy making music or know how to make music. But yeah, we got limitless potential when it comes to these modern, you know, virtual instruments, DAWs. And also you got AI assisted music as well, like Suno. That influence, the influence of the 80s era is still very alive and well today. So let's take synthwave, for example. It's a genre that's heavily inspired by the 80s synths. It borrows the same sort of pads, the gated snares, that analog warmth, but it reimagines that sound of the 80s, but with a modern twist. So you got artists like The Weeknd or Dua Lipa, they often incorporate the 80s style synths into their tracks. And also, shout out to one of my favorite artists as well, Cass is Dead. If you listen to his catalog, it is amazing. It's that whole 80s, that early to mid 80s vibe with rap on it. Absolutely insane. Shout out to Cass is Dead. Just goes to show that 80s sound is just untouchable. And we haven't really done much better since the 2000s, if I'm being honest. Don't get me wrong, there are some artists out there that are doing their thing, like I mentioned, like Cass. You got some artists that they lean into that throwback kind of retro futuristic sound. Love that kind of sound. But yeah, the 80s and 90s will forever be a vibe. Just saying. Even the Gen Z will tell you. Even Gen Z will tell you, you know? Do you know how much Gen Z and Gen Alpha love music from the 80s and 90s? They don't even like their own music. Like, you just need to go on the YouTube comments and just look at like comments under songs that were produced in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, look at the comments from the younger generation saying things like, "I wish I was there. I wish I was part of this era." You know, that's testament to that everlasting influence. That 80s music, 90s music is literally evergreen. Literally, it's evergreen. But yeah, so the artists of this era, they weren't just musicians, they were pioneers. Artists like Vangelis taught us how to evoke emotion through synthesis. Kate Bush showed us the storytelling potential of technology. Herbie Hancock blurred the lines between jazz, funk, and electronic music. They weren't afraid to experiment, to embrace the new. The sound of the 80s wasn't just a product of its time. It was a revolution that continues to echo through the music of today. By the way, feel free to check out the Spotify playlist. I'm going to leave a link in the description if you want to check out any of the songs that I mentioned or any of the songs created with these synths, the 808, the TR-909. Did I mention the 909? I didn't mention the 909 in this episode. That's more 90s. That's more house music. Probably do an episode like that as well. But like the Synclavier, the Fairlight, the Jupiter, the CS-80, really geeking out on stuff like that. Probably doesn't mean anything to you, but if you go down the rabbit hole, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll see that all the songs from that era, they have a similar vibe. That's because they are pulling from maybe 5 or 6 different synthesizers and maybe 2 or 3 drum machines. That's why they have a very unique, a very specific vibe. So yeah, feel free to check out the playlist. Oh, by the way, comment below, leave a comment below and let me know what your favorite songs from that era are. Maybe 80s or 90s. I don't want to hear about anything after 1999. Just, in fact, let's just keep it 80s. What are your favorite songs from that era, from the 80s? Any genre, it doesn't matter what it is. Let me know, drop a comment down below. And if you think you can spot any of these instruments or whichever, in those songs. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's very niche. Not a lot of people would actually care about this sort of thing. You'd have to be a music nerd to actually care about this sort of thing. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not for everybody. It's not. Most people just want to crack on and listen to the song and not really pay attention to what's going on in the song. As long as they like the melody and the beat and it's catchy, that's all they care about. But for those of us, I'm talking to my tribe now, for those of us who listen to the bass line, the kick drum, the snares, the reverb, this is what I'm talking to you. You guys are my people. You're going to care about this stuff. And that's why I'm bringing this to you. So for those of you who make music, if you've ever wondered, how do I get my stuff to sound like this? Why does that era of music have this sound? I can't put my finger on it. They're all using the same musical instruments. It's like only a handful, maybe 5 or 6, you know? It's only a few. Whereas with today, you've got this plugin, that plugin, this expansion. You've got native instruments. You've got Control. You've got Machine. You've got Logic. You've got Cubase. You've got Fruit Loops. Do they call it Fruit Loops? Fruity Loops? What do they even call it? What do they call it nowadays? That's it. They call it FL Studio. Yeah, that's the one. FL Studio. So yeah, for those that know, for those that make music who are interested in sound design and that kind of stuff, this is more for you. But I mentioned Suno. I mentioned AI music, AI generated music. I'm going to do an episode on AI generated music because that is something that is really important, and it is going to shape the direction of music production in some way. It's going to affect it because as it improves, you're going to get non-musical people, just the same way as with photography. When photography went digital with smartphones, you've got non-photographer types taking really good pictures. You're going to have the same with the AI music. You're going to have people who are not musicians. They're not classically trained with music. They don't know anything about music theory at all. And they're going to come and they're going to make bangers. Yeah. Something to think about. Don't forget, if you like the podcast, please leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on, especially if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I really appreciate it if you could leave a review. If you're on YouTube, just drop a like, hit subscribe, come again, tune in again next week. New episodes drop on a Thursday evening, if I can get them out in time, but they're always on a Thursday. And yeah. So if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to subscribe and share, like, comment, all of that good stuff. Don't forget you can follow me on the socials or on Instagram @thecontentpro_. Until next time.